Mark chapter 9, verse 14. I'm reading from the NIV Bible, and this is what it says. I'm not going to get real preacher tonight. I just kind of want to talk to you. Can we just talk tonight?
Yeah.
Verse 14 says, when they came to the other disciples, they saw a large crowd around them, and the teachers of the law arguing with them. As soon as all the people saw Jesus, they were overwhelmed with wonder and ran to greet him. Jesus says, what are you arguing with them about? He asked. Verse 17 says, a man in the crowd answered, Teacher, I brought you my son, who is possessed of a spirit that has robbed him of speech. Whenever it seizes him, it throws him to the ground. He foams at the mouth, gnashes his teeth, and becomes rigid. I asked your disciples to drive out the spirit, but they could not. O unbelieving generation, Jesus replied, how long shall I stay with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring the boy to me, Jesus said. Verse 20 says, so they brought him. When the spirit saw Jesus, it immediately threw the boy into a convulsion. He fell to the ground and rolled around, foaming at the mouth. Ain't that just like a demonic spirit that wants to show out in front of Jesus?
Yes.
Jesus asked the boy's father, how long has he been like this? Childhood, he answered. It has often thrown him into the fire or water to kill him. But if you can do anything, take pity on us and help us. I like the way the NIV says. Jesus says, if you can, said Jesus. Everything is possible for him who believes. Verse 24 says, immediately the boy's father exclaimed, I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief. Now, if the truth were really, tonight we're going to talk about that pin drop, or what I labeled it early on. You've been pushed on by life. Life just kind of pushes you a little bit, and it pushes you to a point where you're not necessarily in a corner. There was an old rap record that said, don't push me because I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. And then they make this sound, and I believe that hump sound is them fighting, trying not to fall. And sometimes you can look at people and you can hear the that they're going through. They're trying not to lose it, trying not to cuss, trying not to click, trying not to run away, trying not to spend their money, trying not to go backwards, trying not to go back to what they used to go to, trying not to deal with the stuff that they used to deal with. They said, really, I'm on the edge. And really, the reality is a lot of us are dealing with what I call shaky faith. It's shaky faith. It's faith, but it's shaky. You ever been on something that's shaky? There's something you really can't, you kind of scared to deal with. I drove a 1975 burnt orange Granada, and it was shaky. The seats were burnt orange, not regular orange, burnt orange. The seats were burnt orange. The seats were shaky, the engine was shaky, the power steering was shaky. Every time I get up to a certain mile an hour, it would just shake. And it got me from point A to point B, but it was still shaky. And many of us believe that we walk in faith and we quote scriptures, but if the truth of the matter were told, many of us are dealing with some shaky situations in our lives. It looks like we got it all together, but we're dealing with some shaky situations. I don't really want to focus on Jesus so much on tonight, or I don't really necessarily even want to focus on the disciples, but I really want to focus on this person that has no name, this man. Everybody say man. This man. You could be the man. It could be a woman for all we care in this situation. But all of us have been in this situation that this man was in. Now let me put some clarity or bring us up to speed to where verse 14 picks up. Verse 14 picks up after Jesus, Peter, James, and John have gone to the Mount of Transfiguration and seen some things that they've never seen before. Jesus took Peter, James, and John, and then they saw some stuff that they never seen before. And Peter said, you know what, let's build a monument right here, and then we can just stay right here. And Jesus says, no, it's some other stuff that we have to do. After you encounter a major thing from God, that's when the work has to begin. As soon as you get a word from God, you can't stay on the mountaintop. That's when you got to go and get that word or do the work that the word told you to actually do. Think about this in the Old Testament. when Moses received the 10 commandments or the law, he had to come down off the mountain and institute the law. At Mount Carmel, when that prophet was fighting, after that fight was over, he had to go on down and live the life that God wanted him to live. After you come out of your prayer closet, you can't stay in your closet. You got to get up and live the life that God wanted you to live.
Right.
So here they are. When we pick up at verse 14, these 4 people, Jesus, Peter, James, and John, and they're walking, and he sees his disciples, and a whole bunch of people are around him arguing. They're fussing. And Jesus said, what's the deal? And then a man comes out of the crowd and said, I brought my son. Here's the short version of the lesson. I brought my son to your disciples, but they couldn't do anything. And Jesus, it seems like he got upset. He said, how long am I going to be with y'all? Faithless and unbelieving generation. Bring the boy to me. What's the deal with him? Told him what the deal was. Jesus said some things to him. Then, matter of fact, the demon started to demonstrate who he really was. Can I say something real quick?
All right.
Stop tripping, and this is for me, this ain't for y'all. Stop tripping on folks that are around you when you know that they are demonic, because demonic people will show off for themselves. In other words, you don't have to claim somebody to be demonic. In other words, demons will show off automatically.
Yes, sir.
Jesus in you is alive. The demonic, matter of fact, it's all throughout the Bible. Remember when they crossed over to the other side and they landed in a place called the Gadarenes, and then this demonic spirit said, don't torture me. Jesus didn't say nothing. The disciples didn't say nothing. Matter of fact, the storm was over, but the demons started to react. Demons raise their hands and say, hey, I'm a demon. Matter of fact, the demon called the demon's name with the man in the tomb. Jesus looked at him, and the demon said, our name is Legion, for we are many. A demon will tell you where they are and what their name is. Can I say this real quick? The demon of lesbianism and homosexuality will rise up and say who they are. The demon of greed and overspending will rise up and say who they are. The demon of gluttony will stand up and rise up and say who they are. It don't need you to call it out. It don't need you to put a label on it. A demon knows what a demon is. So don't worry about trying to say, ooh, this thing. No, demon will tell you what a demon is. Let me say this to some of the single females. If a man shows you that he got a demon, he'll tell you that he got one and what kind of demon he got based on how he came at you. So we have this man with what I call shaky faith. He got faith, but it's shaky faith. Well, let's go through this. Let's go through this. Verses 17 and 18 explains the situation that the man was in. Everybody say situation. Situation. No matter who you are, you got a situation. Whether it's a good situation or a bad situation, everybody got a situation. And sometimes your good situations can go bad and your bad situations can turn good.
All right.
Verses 17 and 18 said, a man in the crowd answered, Teacher, I brought you my son, who's possessed by a spirit that has robbed him of speech. Whenever it seizes him or grabs him or captures him, it throws him to the ground. He foams at the mouth, gnashes his teeth, and becomes rigid. I asked the disciples to drive out the spirit, but they could not. First of all, his situation was internal. His son had an internal situation, had an internal demon. The demon was on the inside of him. And what's funny about that was, the unique thing about this was that the demon that was on the inside of him caused him not to be able to speak. Why is it that the first thing that Satan wants to do is to keep you from talking? He wants to silence you. He wants to quiet you from saying what can deliver you. We're in the Easter season, and on next week, and let me just put in a plug, next Saturday, we'll have a candlelight service. It's going to be real special. If you can't come, we really want you to be here. It's going to be nice. It's going to be a couple of different things, but on Good Friday, we typically celebrate the sayings that Jesus said from the cross. And if you notice, while Jesus was on the cross, as long as he was talking, he was alive. But when he got quiet, that's when everything changed. Let me say that again slow because I want you to catch that. As long as he was speaking, the word was still alive. But as soon as he got quiet, that's when everything changed. Whenever you get quiet, that's when a cloud comes over you. Stop being quiet. Matter of fact, you ain't got to tell your business. Sometimes you can just cry out to God so that he can hear your voice and connect with your heart to heal your situation. You got the demon was internal and it kept him from speaking. Sometimes we can never be delivered from the shaky situations that we are in because we don't open our mouths and speak.
That's right.